Check out our friends at Linquistity Gifts. Linquistity Gifts is a metaphysical store offering natural gemstone bead bracelets, signature and zodiac, designed and made in the United States, as well as raw and polished stones, crystal balls, pendulums, tarot cards, natural crystal points, wands, and so much more. Their beautiful signature design bracelets can aid with creativity, balance, focus, and well-being. Visit their website using the link in the description or visit linquistitygifts.com and use coupon code FKN to get 10% off your first order over $20. Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Tonight, my guest is Constance Briggs. Before I bring her on, I have to thank C60 Purple Power. They are the amazing company that makes a super antioxidant. It acts as a free radical sponge and eliminates toxins in the body. It has me feeling better than I've felt in years, and you really should too. Just check out their website to learn more. You can click the link in the description or visit c60purplepower.com. If the link doesn't work, you can use coupon code KNOWLEDGE10, and you're going to get 10% off your order plus free shipping. Also, please subscribe to Forbidden Knowledge News on lbry.com. It's our official backup channel. We're always available on all podcast platforms. And check out our brand new show exclusively on Rokfin called Beyond Classified. Rokfin's amazing new platform for free-thinking content creators and independent media. Shows like Leak Project with Rex Baird, Tinfoil Hat with Sim Tripoli, Macroaggressions with Charlie Robinson, and many more. They're already there. And all the topics that are now banned on YouTube, we're going to be covering them on Beyond Classified, among many other topics with great, amazing guests and presentations. Just click the link in the description to check out Rokfin now. Tonight, I want to welcome Constance Victoria Briggs. She is a metaphysical, spiritual, and cosmic researcher, writer, and historian. She is the author of the Encyclopedia of Angels, Encyclopedia of God, Encyclopedia of the Unseen World, and the Encyclopedia of Moon Mysteries. She has discussed such topics as angels, extraterrestrials, ancient aliens, life after death, out-of-body experiences, moon mysteries, and much more on many radio talk shows. It is her goal to investigate the mysteries of the universe and how they connect to humanity. Constance, welcome. How are you doing tonight?
I'm very well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for joining us. Been looking forward to tonight. Oh, yes. Looking forward to tonight. We're going to be talking about some anomalies on the moon, which have always fascinated me. The moon's anomaly in itself, it's gravity locked. We don't ever see the dark side. And the list of conspiracies surrounding the moon landing, secret bases, even possible civilizations. I mean, the list goes on and on. So it's definitely a fascinating topic to be covered. Before we get too far into it, I'd love to hear what got you interested in these topics.
Well, I've always been interested in the idea of whether or not we are alone in the universe. And so when you've got your hands in the research that I do, you get a lot of interesting stories that come across your desk. And I stumbled upon one year a book titled Our Mysterious Spaceship Moon by a ufologist named Don Wilson. And, I picked this up and I read a little bit of it. And, I had always heard that there was something strange about the moon. But I tell you, Mr. Wilson, wherever he is, I dedicated part of my book to him because he was so fascinating. His book just opened my eyes to the fact that we've got a very strange entity up there. The moon is not anything like we were taught to believe. So with the moon, that's where I began my research by reading his little book, and I took off from there.
I'm sure that led you down the road of ancient aliens and metaphysical things and
I was
of
already
that
there.
nature. Oh, you're already there. Okay,
Oh no,
okay.
I was already there. I was on board with the ancient alien theory before I learned this much about the strangeness of our moon. There are so many peculiarities about this object. I can't even say anymore, just call it a moon, because it is so much more than that. I learned, like most people, that it is a what we think is a dead rock in the sky. Um, there's just so many possibilities of what else it is besides that. There is, go ahead. I'm sorry, Chris.
I was just gonna ask, if we could start with the possible origins of
Okay.
where this moon could have come from to begin with.
Right. So, there's several theories, or has been in the past, of the origin of the moon. With the most popular theory being the giant impact theory, or the big whack theory. Um, uh, this is the idea that a planet about the size of Mars crashed into Earth, and once it hit Earth, the crust material of the Earth spewed out into to the universe, and created this sphere from the material from Earth that we call the moon. However, there are rocks that have been discovered on the moon that are 500 with a 500 million year discrepancy between the moon rocks and Earth. So that collision theory, that big whack theory, or the giant impact theory, it's got so many names, has been cast aside. They frankly don't know where this thing came from. They don't know what it is. And the researchers are beginning to just say it was brought here, it was parked here, it was put here.
Now, what are your thoughts as to, if this moon was brought here, what would be its purposes? I mean, many researchers have said it could be an observation station, some type of ancient space station. What are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, there are some ideas out there of what the moon is. And like you said, there are so many theories. My personal favorite is that of it being this is going to sound far out for some people, but that of it being a entity that is a spaceship, that it was created outside of our universe and brought, some people say dragged, some people, researchers think it was put in the tail of a comet, but brought across the universe to where we are. There's the idea that what we actually have here is a hollow moon. We've all heard it, that the moon is hollow, and that possibly there could be beings living inside of that of a hollow sphere that they brought here, that they tidal locked here. Some of the theory is that they brought it to, that they saw this planet. It was young. It had potential. Not young, but the people on it were young, and it was potential for growth here and growing life. That's what some people think it was placed here for. Perhaps that was the start, maybe, of the Garden of Eden. Others believe that it was brought here, and the entities may have assisted in the creation of humans progressing, and are now keeping in watch on them and from afar. In fact, there is a theory that it's not just Earth that they may have come and maybe seeded or helped life to grow, but there may be one big ship that had stopped in other areas too, maybe Mars, and had the same result. But one of the largest, the spaceship moon theory, is that, excuse me, there may have been beings on a planet who, for whatever reason, had to escape. And it may be even like a Noah's Ark of beings that now have lived here for so long, they don't even know maybe that they are on a spaceship. Who knows? But that is the big theory that I like, and I kind of feel that could be right. Now, whether or not there's another theory that they are no longer there, that they have left, and what we have is a hollow spacecraft with the beings gone. But that's not what things look like, because we're seeing lights, we're seeing movement on the moon. Looks like things are crossing the moon. So there's definitely something going on up there. And I believe that the origin, for me, I like the spaceship moon theory. There's also an idea that the moon is a way station where the UFOs that we see in Earth may be stopping through for whatever reason. There is also, along the lines of the spaceship moon theory, is the fact that even if the moon wasn't brought here, and so many believe it was, that however it came to be, that it is a foreign country. It's not Earth's moon. There are people on the moon, and it doesn't belong to us. So that's another theory, that that the moon itself is a foreign country.
Now, when it comes to conspiracies surrounding the moon, I think one of the largest ones is, did we go or not? Did we even land on the moon? That's been one of the conspiracies since, I was growing up. The argument of whether we were actually on the moon or not. I'd like to get your thoughts. Did we actually make it out there? And is that footage that we have, is it authentic, or did we fake it for some reason? What are your thoughts on the moon landing?
So I was, when I first got into this, I was very surprised to hear that so many people felt we didn't go to the moon. That was huge for me. I've even had an audience say, "Oh, I stopped listening when she said we went to the moon." So no, I believe that we went, and there are still people who are saying, "Okay, well, if we did go with one mission," no, we've had 12 men walk on the moon. There were several missions. So yes, I definitely believe that we did. I believe that there is absolute proof within NASA itself, and that it has documents, thousands of pages of documents. They recorded everything from all of the missions. They recorded the dialogue and the mechanics and everything they were doing. That would have been quite a hoax for them to have even gone as far as to make all of that dialogue and paperwork. For those that are saying, I feel that it was filmed here on Earth, there are two theories behind this. One of them is, there's one theory, I'm sorry. And that is that if indeed there was a film done, that part of the footage was real, and then part of the footage was made to hide whatever may have been seen that they didn't want to tell that was on the moon. I guess that is a possibility. But to answer your question, yes, I believe they were there. And I would like people to understand that there wasn't just the Apollo 11. There were many after that. And we have the dialogues, and we have the stories, and we have the pictures. I don't see how in the world people feel they faked all of those pictures that are.
Yeah, now speaking of evidence that we've gone, there is some audio clips out there that suggest that the astronauts of the Apollo mission may have seen things or strange entities or even beings on the moon. Some audio clips that indicate that they seen something that they didn't understand or something strange. Have you come across that in your research?
I've come across a lot of interesting stories that come from all of the Apollo missions. Every single mission that went up saw either strange lights, and most of them had UFOs following them. And that's on the way to the moon. once they reached the moon, there are also stories of astronauts in structures that they saw, in strange lights that they saw. One famous story in particular, and maybe your audience is quite familiar with it, is that one of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin seeing ships lined up on the crater of the moon, a crater of the moon once they stepped onto the moon's surface.
Right.
And they had supposedly gone on a secret medical channel to talk to ground personnel to tell them what they were seeing. That's a very famous story. That one is interesting more than that because there are people who worked at the time who have written books. One of them is named, I hope I don't ruin his name, but Maurice Chatelain has written a book where he said, he was there, he heard, he knows that this happened. And so he's written about it. Other people have come forward and said that they had heard the rumors as soon as it happened when they worked at NASA, excuse me, that the astronauts had seen something. So that's one very, very famous tale. And there's also a tale of one of those two, either Armstrong or Aldrin, having seen an entity very close to the ship, and it was said to be ethereal. So not only that, but other missions that went up had some interactions. There are stories of beings. A couple of the missions had problems while they were in space, and it is said that that extraterrestrials helped them to return to Earth safely, and that was as a result of extraterrestrial intervention and help, but that the astronauts were asked not to ever say anything like that. So there's all kinds of interesting stories out there. Can they be sourced and backed up? Well, in my book, I have put sources. I have named some of the pictures where you can go on NASA and see. There's some dialogue in the book where you can hear the astronauts talking about seeing lights and openings on the moon and making there's just very strange comments about things that they were seeing.
Now, you briefly mentioned it earlier about the structures that could be on the moon. Thanks to recent satellite imagery, we've been able to see a lot more of the moon, and we've come across plenty of pictures that appear to be, man-made constructions. One that even looks like an obelisk on the moon. What are your thoughts on some of these? Do you think that there are active constructions, or do you think it's ancient, or maybe a combination of even both? Are you at a crossroads in life with unanswered questions? How does your past connect to your present life? October Hallam can help you discover how your past connects to your present and is shaping your future. October is an intuitive, healer, empath, and medium with over 20 years of experience helping people navigate through some of life's greatest challenges. A recent client from Egypt says, "October is pure magic. We keep coming back for more," and recommended her to our closest friends. If you would like to book a session with October, please contact her at theancientgift222@gmail.com.
So I think there are a combination of three things. Number one, I do believe that some of these are natural formations that we see, and maybe we think it's one thing. That's been talked about, and that could happen. But for the most part, I think that some of them are ancient ruins that have been there for a while. It's said that some of these structures look like they were pieces of buildings, that maybe even there had been a war on the moon. Excuse me. Some have traced that even back to the time of Atlantis, and whether or not Atlantis was real is still a question mark, and I'm working on a book on that. But there's said to have been a time in Earth's history where we were more advanced, and that we had the capability of the Atlanteans and other ancient civilizations to fly, and that they believe maybe they had been, according to this legend, they had been going back and forth to the moon, and there had been a war. And not only a war on the moon, this may be even tied into Mars, but I guess that's no other show. So some of it looks like ancient ruins, that maybe there was a war, but also there have been structures today that look completely intact, such as the obelisk that you had mentioned. They have been seen by both us and the Soviets. There, are pictures with these things, and they look recent, more recent than ancient. And also, there are tales of structures appearing and disappearing. There are lighted domes, structures of lighted domes said to appear, and then they're gone. There's one very famous story about a bridge that you may be aware of, and I hear that they put that aside now, but I don't believe anymore what they're saying, because this thing appeared in the 50s by and it was seen by an astronomer who was prominent in his day, and he had been studying the moon, and this bridge, as he called it, was not there previously. He came in one day and it was just built, and he was kind of scoffed at. And then another, I think it was astronomer by the name of Wilkins, came in and said, yes, it's there, I've seen it. It was 12 miles long, they estimated, appeared overnight. They said it was man-made, just like the other structures. By the way, there are structures standing there that have not disappeared, that's been there for many years, that they are saying look man-made. And then eventually it disappeared. So lighted domes have appeared, like I said, I find fascinating, that have, they are at one day and gone the next. So we've only, with the Apollo missions, we've only seen less than 1% of the moon's surface. So, because someone said to me, "Oh, they've been to the moon. They didn't see much. They didn't see this. They're finding all of this stuff in images. They would have seen something." No, they wouldn't have seen anything. We've got, the far side of the moon. We've got the front side of the moon. It's a sphere, so we've got the complete, more, even more of the moon that we just haven't seen. So yeah, I think, to answer your original question, I think what we're seeing is a combination of something going on now and something that happened in the past.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I would agree with that. And one of the most compelling things for me that tells me that there's something going on up there is the telescopic footage that I've seen from my own good friends with telescopes that are amateur astronomers that have seen objects traversing the moon and casting shadows as they pass. And they're flying in a formation. They're not asteroids. You can tell that these aren't asteroids flying in a certain formation across the moon. And I've also seen these white lighted objects fly out of craters, which is very, very interesting. So that's for me is the most compelling thing, is actually seeing these things fly over the moon, which is fascinating.
It's amazing. I have a Facebook page that I've called a Moon Mysteries page, and I just recently uploaded a video that someone took of, you can see these obvious ships flying, across the moon, and it's several of them. And as you said, you can see them coming out of holes, and you can see them, coming off from the sides. There's the idea along the lines of, obviously someone living on the moon, is that, on the far side, since we can't see that they could be coming and going, back there without us having ever seen them. Today we have so much technology. I'm sure they may not like that, but today we have that technology, and we can see them, and they are, definitely less hidden, but they can be coming and going and coming here. We have a lot of sightings here. Where are they coming from? where are so many coming from? It's almost like a hive, a beehive. You find a bee, then there's another one and another one, and then you're looking for the source of where they are. That's what the UFOs, to me, appear like today, that they have this nearby location, that they are hiding.
Right.
And it looks like very soon we may get some answers, you know.
That would be very interesting. There's a lot happening with the UFO phenomenon right now. And with the moon being tidal locked and we're only seeing one side, how convenient would it be to have a base or something on the dark side that's always there that we just can't see?
Just can't see.
We
And we
don't have access to.
We haven't seen enough of it to know what's going on. And also inside the moon, it's just not not such a weird idea. I mean, we have, if you believe in contactees, in what they're saying, there have been a number of contactees, people who say, that they are in contact with extraterrestrials, and they have been taking places, and they've seen the moon, and they've seen people on the moon, and they've seen ships within the moon, coming and going. So we're seeing something. I mean, if they're not coming from just anywhere, you can't say they don't exist anymore. And also, it appears that it's been years and years. I keep hearing, and you have too. We're not alone. We've never been alone. We haven't. The whole UFO phenomenon goes back to ancient times. So I'm sure that they've been about the moon for all of those years. And apparently, they are malevolent. They're not there to hurt us. No one on the moon was hurt, but they're saying, some of the researchers who have been looking at this are saying, okay, so they may be living inside the moon, and they might be quite annoyed with us coming up there and leaving our junk. I don't know if people are aware of how much junk we have left on the moon. I forget the number of how many pounds, it's just phenomenal. And I was shocked when I heard it. They said, oh, if someone's up there, they're probably tired of us doing that. They're tired of us making the moon ring like a bell. We've all heard the moon ring like a bell. We caused that. And some have gone as far to say as maybe that's why we don't, haven't returned to the moon. Now, we're supposedly going to go now in 2024. I wonder if they know something to be going back there, or they're just ignoring the footage coming out of there. Who knows? But hopefully they'll have some answers.
Well, supposedly China recently went to the moon. I'm wondering, they're not going to share their secrets with the United States, of course. I'm just wondering if they know something or may have already come across something on the moon is why they went there in the first place. It's very interesting.
Yeah, there's some speculation, and I'm not a scientist, so I don't know much about these things. Like, I've heard that there may be some interest in helium-3. That the moon is full of, and there's some worry or thought that China might be looking into that. And the first, country to get that would, be very rich. But that was just talk. We don't know that for sure. There have been in the past when China have sent probes up, where they have taken some pictures of anomalies and structures there as well. So they're really not new to the idea. In fact, China had a probe that was knocked out at one point. And they thought, okay, it just stopped working. And they China said, we think it may have been ETs that knocked this thing out. They couldn't prove it, but it was just strange how the whole thing went down. So they're open to that thought, even though we don't say we're open to it. They openly said that publicly. So
that's very interesting. Now, for those that aren't familiar, could you tell the audience a little bit about what the transient lunar phenomena is?
Yeah. Wow. The transient lunar phenomena is lights, luminosities, orbs, lightning, lightning cloud looking clouds, all kind of lights that have been spotted on the moon, above the moon, around the moon. The astronauts saw it when they were there. They talked about them. They had lights coming, beaming into their crafts. When they were down there, there's some dialogue where they were talking about lights. Astronomers have been seeing them all the way back to the days of Galileo. They've been spotting lights for centuries now. They've been reporting them to the British Astronomical Society, keeping track of all of these things. They come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. They've been seen on the surface. They've been seen on the craters. They were so prevalent that NASA created a publication where they put all of their collection of these weird lights that they couldn't explain in a book format. I actually have it. And they had the dates, and they had the name of the astronomers that saw them. And it is believed that some of the reason that we went to the moon in the first place was to find out what the heck is going on up there. Where were the lights coming from? The reports of structures. There were also a report of a ancient ship. They thought that maybe these things had prompted the U.S. to go in there. Again, on my Moon Mysteries page, I'm trying to myself keep a collection of the dates so that every day in history that one occurred, I try to put it up. But we don't know what these are. Could they be, they're not eruptions. They aren't meteorites hitting. These things appear, they disappear. They're perfect orbs sometimes. Some of them, like I said, look like clouds and fog and lightning. Nothing should be moving up there. Nothing should be going on. So what is it? What's causing it?
Exactly. You've also done some research on the work of Ingo Swann, who was a remote viewer that was working with the CIA, and he had actually remote viewed things on the moon. Could you tell us a little bit about some of his work that you've followed up on and what he saw on the moon?
Yeah, Ingo was phenomenal in that during his time, he was the prominent remote viewer. People wanted to get in touch with him, and this agency did. They contacted him. At the time, he didn't know what was going on. He didn't know what they wanted. Once they got him in close quarters, they told him they needed him to remote view the moon. And one of the reasons I was going to say he was prominent, but one of the reasons they wanted him was because he had also remote viewed Jupiter, and he had discovered a ring there, and that hadn't been seen before, and so they thought that maybe that he could help. So anyway, so he got the coordinates. I'm not a remote viewing person, so forgive me if I don't explain it exactly the way it happens, but according to Ingo, scientifically I can't explain it, but he got coordinates and he went, however that works, with remote viewing to the moon, and he could remote view. Some people have this gift, and he could see what was going on there. He saw people, humanoid, working. He saw buildings. He said he saw them creating some sort of laser they were working on. And he was fascinated, but while he was there, however this works, he felt that the humanoid beings that were living there could sense him. And he left the moon, and when he returned, he was frightened. He wrote in his book Penetration. It's called Penetration by Ingo Swann. And he said that he hid. He was afraid and he hid. And he felt that they had somehow followed him. However, if it was consciously, or I don't really understand it, but he was afraid, and he said that they followed him. But he said that he saw humanoids living and working on the moon.
And
And
earlier, go ahead.
this is a guy, sorry, this is a guy who had, scientifically discovered, something that we didn't know for years and years and years. So he was proven correct then, about this ring that he discovered. So why not believe him now?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Earlier, you were talking about contactees, and you said that you had accounts of contactees and experiencers that have had experiences on the moon or being taken to the moon or have visions of the moon. What are some of the most profound accounts of contactees or experiencers having experiences on the moon?
Um, I think, where most of us are familiar with George Adamski. He was brilliant in that he wrote a few books on his experiences with extraterrestrials. And Adamski said he was taken to the moon by his ET friends. He said the lunar surface, he described the lunar surface, which was interesting because, of course, this was before the missions. And he said that the surface was made up of a light, dusty type of material, while other areas were more of a granular substance. What struck me was that he knew this before, we went up. And that was on his first trip to the moon. He took a second trip in 1954. And he said he observed enormous air ducts on crater floors designed to hold large spacecraft. He was informed that visitors to the moon had to first depressurize in order for their bodies to become adjusted to the lunar environment. He described seeing hangars shaped like domes for spaceships coming in, and that they were carrying supplies, and that these beings were bartering the supplies with the people that were on the moon. So that was Adamski, and his books are out there. You can look his stories up, fascinating. He's got pictures. Alex Collier, one of my favorites, was a contactee for a race of beings called the Andromedans from the Andromeda galaxy. Excuse me if I'm not pronouncing that well. He said that extraterrestrials brought the moon into Earth's orbit, and that the entities performed the task of helping us to become acclimated as on Earth and upgrading ourselves. And he also said that there were vegetation on the moon, and there was water on the moon. There was another gentleman by the name of Howard Minger. He took pictures of the moon when he was taken there aboard an extraterrestrial ship. By the way, these were not abductions. He said that he saw buildings which were domed. He described again the surface was powdery. And at one point on the tour, he said that the extraterrestrials living on the moon allowed him and other guests to experience the outside nature of the moon. He said that they were able to, as they were on a sort of a train-like contraption, they were momentarily able to put their heads outside and experience the extremely hot temperatures. And then he recalled thinking that no one would be able to live outside on the surface for long if you were human. So those are the kinds of things that I came across.
There's also interesting stories from Russian cosmonauts of things that we don't hear often, of things that they've seen and experienced that you've written about. Could you talk about some of the experiences that they've had?
Yeah, so the Russians were completely a surprise for me. Of course, we know they didn't make it a manned mission to the moon, but in their trying to get there, they had some amazing experiences in their preparation and their rehearsing. It's said that they lost about 6 cosmonauts in trying to work this out perfectly. And one of the occasions, there were cosmonauts in a spacecraft, and they were traveling, and they came across UFOs. And it just appeared that these UFOs didn't want them to go any further. They literally got in their way. They formed a triangle. And they sort of, as the story went, they sort of not bounced, but when the ship would go one way, it looked as if they were being in a ping pong ball. They were a ping pong ball, and the cosmonauts were upset, scared, confused, but they weren't allowed to go any further, and they were being tossed around. They went back, of course. They turned around and they went back. There's another experience where the first the first woman in space is said to have been a cosmonaut. And there is a story where she and a cosmonaut were in space in their preparation, and they had been there a while, and they encountered something out there, and they disappeared. We don't know what happened to them, but you can hear there was a recording of them saying, we have to let, the gentleman is saying, look out the window. And she's yelling, we have to tell them. They'll never know on Earth if we don't tell them. And they disappeared. So that's pretty scary. And also there's a story that one of the Apollo missions found and this would never be told by anybody, I think, except someone who's just coming out and blowing the whistle. But there is a story that one of the Apollo missions found a dead cosmonaut out there. That's a very sad and interesting story. And goodness knows, both of these countries send up animals into space. And they're just, I guess, just floating around out there. And so, yes, there's a story that they spotted this cosmonaut. So, with my book, I called it the Encyclopedia of Moon Mysteries, because they are mysteries. They're tales, they're legends. Some of them, you can find the answers on websites or in the writings of astronauts or in stories that are told, and some of them remain mysteries, and that is one of them. Another one was of a cosmonaut having gone up, and the capsule he was in collapsed. It just stopped working, and he fell back to Earth, and you could just hear him screaming and cursing, at the guys. Now that one, that one is a true tale for sure, because
Yeah.
I mean, some of the sources that I got this stuff from are just amazing. But I am finding that people haven't heard a lot of it. They've heard the Apollo 11 saw aliens on the moon, but they haven't heard this other stuff. They haven't heard the story of some of the Apollo missions having trouble getting back and being possibly helped out. They haven't heard this. Well, this one came out actually a few years ago, where they were flying on the far side of the moon, and they heard some weird sounds on the far side. Some of them referred to it as music. They said, "Oh, you could hear the." So what happened is, this Apollo mission went to fly around the moon, and when you're on the far side, you're out of touch with Earth. So for 1 hour, and while they were back there, they could hear some strange noises, and you've got the dialogue where they're saying, "Oh, what is that? What is that strange noise? Oh, that's weird space music. Well, where is it coming from? Oh, I don't know. Well, oh, they'll never believe this. Well, should we tell them? Well, guess what? They didn't tell them. They discovered these recordings years and years later.
Wow, that's very interesting. Music in space.
But well, it's not our kind of music, but that's what they refer to it as. And someone said, someone said, oh, it's just static from the radios interfering with each other. But no, we have the best trained people going into space. They know what they're doing. They knew the difference.
Now, last year we had Donald Trump announce the Space Force, or the year before, one of his years as president. Now, there's been plenty of theories that we already had a Space Force and a secret space program with bases on the moon and the moon and Mars, which we've already occupied. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that we could have possibly already have operations there and beyond?
So I did say once, I asked the same question. Could we have gone to the moon? Could there be a secret operation? Could what we are seeing up there be us? And there were some rumors that Germany had sent secret missions up in the 40s, but for some reason it's not ringing well with me. I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so. But we did hear that story come out, a few weeks ago, where there was an official
Israeli
in Israel
military official,
who
yeah.
said that there's something going on with Mars. So, I mean, who am I to say? I don't know. And honestly, that, if you don't mind my just getting off subject for just a second,
Of course.
that official named Galactic Federation. Now, so in my home, you know, I know about these things. I don't always talk to my family about them, but I told them, I said, this is not news. The Galactic Federation is not news. I'm just surprised they were outed. I can't believe they outed them. And they, these guys, I have two kids and, my husband here, they hear me talk about a lot of things, but I hadn't talked about the Galactic Federation, but they are well known. Now, is it the same Galactic Federation that I've heard about? Who knows? But yeah, that was not a surprise. What was surprised is that they were outed, so who knows?
Yeah, I would like to talk a little bit about what's going on with disclosure and the ET phenomenon in general. But before we do, is there any other particular favorite mystery of the moon that you'd like to maybe touch on before we move on to that subject?
I think that my let's see, my absolute favorite. Well, there is one. There is a mystery of Colossus. Colossus is um, it looks like in this picture, it looks like a very tall uh, person walking across the moon, just very naturally, and I just wonder about that. I don't have lots of information on Colossus, but he was named after, I believe, after a god. And I wish I don't have it in my book, but if your audience is listening, go and Google Colossus on the moon. I think that's pretty amazing to see something that looks like they're walking across the moon. Oh, and there's a story where and I there were so many missions, I can't always remember which is which, but there was a story where the astronauts were working on the moon, a couple of astronauts, and they were almost hit in the head. Have you heard that story? Something flew by them when they
No,
were
I
on the
haven't.
surface working, and it just flew by them and almost, popped them, and it was so fast, they had to turn, and they don't know what it was. It kind of, they said, disappeared behind the horizon. Oh, and there's another story out of San Diego, and it's more of not something happening on the moon, but of beings that were on their way to the moon, who so these people in San Diego. One of them was a writer, publisher of a newspaper, and he was out with his family, and others were out, and they saw this thing flying across the moon, and it looked like a bird, a metal bird or something, and they called it the Corita. And the beings in it were said to have channeled information to someone on Earth, and said, they would never land here, and that they were extraterrestrials, and that it was a winged spacecraft, and it looked like a bird. I just find that funny and interesting.
That is very interesting. Now, speaking of the ET phenomenon, have you had any personal UFO sightings or even contact experiences?
Yeah, wow, Chris. Okay, so my first one, and this is something that I just remembered recently. This occurred as a child. I haven't shared this one, but I was asking my brother the other day. We lived in Virginia, and I was traveling in the car with my mom, and we were sort of up on a hill, and I could look down into the city with lights. And I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I remember seeing this object, and and it was, I just remember a semicircle of, it was nighttime. I remember a semicircle of lights blinking uniformly, and there were different lights, and it was in a row. Okay. And I remember thinking to myself, huh, it was hovering, by the way. It was hovering, well, it was moving very slowly, more like a hover. And I remember thinking as a child, I wonder if that's one of those things. And I didn't have a word for it. I don't know if I wasn't thinking UFOs. I don't think we called them at that time that. But I remember wondering if that's what it was. And that memory came and went for years. So was it that one? I think today it was, because, of course, we know that nothing circular can hover, right? But also, I have astral experiences, excuse me, where, I leave the body and I travel. I kind of slip out of my body from time to time, but that's another show. And I went to sleep this day. I was taking a nap. I had a small child. I took a nap, and I left my body, and I was in the sky, which sometimes happened. And I was moving towards a craft. And I have to tell you, it looked nothing like what we have ever seen in pictures, those little silver craft. Nothing like this. This was bronze to gold, very beautiful, very gorgeous. And I was moving slowly towards it. And I knew what was happening. And I got worried that my phone was going to ring and wake me up. I was worried my husband would call me. And sure enough, he called. And what happens when you're in the astral is you're sort of pulled back. I was pulled back and snapped back into the body. And it was at that point where I truly understand that there are ships and beings out there that we cannot see when we are in the physical. We cannot see. And I've heard it before that there are ethereal ships. There can be beings among us that we just can't see because they're just in a different form. And remember, we are in this form only to live here on the earth. We can come and go from this body, but again, that's another show. But once we're out, we can see things, and we can see things that are there that we couldn't otherwise, So those two are my experiences. And then I have another one, which was really interesting. When I was a teenager, I was one of those kids that was bullied pretty heavily, and I tried to take my life. And so I had taken all of these pills, and I saw this swirling, what looked like a swirling cloud open up, and someone appeared. And it was a male figure in a long gown, and it had a collar to here. He had a collar to here, and he was reaching out for me to come. And I didn't move towards him. I just thought to myself, oh my God, this is what happens when you take a lot of sleeping pills, I guess. And I didn't even raise. I was so fascinated. And even though I was a very sad person and I had a mission, I thought, I didn't move towards him. So as the years passed and I became more spiritually oriented and more metaphysical, and I learned to work with the angels and my guides, I kept getting these this information that there was more to us than just angels and guides. It was like my cutting these steps and learning. And I said, well, I have a memory of the light. I don't know what this is. I learned that there were extraterrestrials basically among us. And it started with a book by Scott Mandelaker. And he wrote a book, E.T., I believe it was called E.T.'s, I can't remember. I'm so sorry.
That's no worries.
I'm so sorry. But anyway, his book was about people on Earth that believed that they had had ET contact and actually were ETs living in this, from elsewhere. It's called From Elsewhere. Fascinating publication. Pardon me, I was looking to my bookcase to see if I could find it. So as I went about this journey, and I want to make this quick as I can, I went about this journey. I read about a woman in that book, and she had seen this person. She said that he had appeared out of a swirling cloud, and this cloud opened up, and he was standing there. And I said, wow, that sounds really familiar. And by this time, I was very familiar with the Galactic Federation, many of the names of extraterrestrials out there. And I decided to look up pictures of this being to see how he looked. And I was going through the pictures, and I said, no, not this one, not this one. And then I came across what was said to have been a channeled picture of this being, of this person. And he had channeled through this artist how he looked. And it, to me, okay, so when I found the picture, there was a swirl in front of his face, and the face looked like the person I had seen, and he had a collar up to here. The only thing that hadn't seen was it seemed like he had on some sort of helmet, but everything else rang very interesting and familiar. Was that an experience? I don't know. I like to think it was.
Yeah, it seems like it to me, definitely. I think that the whole world of ufology could benefit from realizing some of the things you said earlier, that these beings exist just beyond the spectrum of our vision. Yeah, sure, maybe some of these extraterrestrials are flying across the galaxy on their spaceships, but a lot of them, I believe, are right here already, among us, just beyond on a different spectrum that we can't see. And I think that if modern ufologists kind of took that approach and came together with some of the nuts and bolts researchers and kind of looked at it that way, they'd get a lot further in their research. I just think that's something that maybe in the future they should look towards more, because there's a lot to it. There's a lot to what you said, that they're already here.
Yes, you know what? I think we should be having what they call town hall meetings about these things. I just can't believe that there's so much out there and people are not paying attention. And I think it's so important. And I do believe that we are a part of a galactic community. We just haven't been allowed in. We're still a warring people. We have a lot of issues. Now, of course, I've heard some, that there are negative extraterrestrials out there. I don't know about as much about those as I try to focus on the light. But I do think it's so important. I have an interesting story. I've gotten off the moon a little bit, if we have time.
Of course, yes.
So, so Star Trek, I am a Trekkie, of course. And there is a story out there about Gene Roddenberry. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there was a woman who was channeling extraterrestrials. They were a group of beings. They say that they have traveled here, and that they come from different parts of, I think it was the galaxy. I don't want to say universe, I'll say galaxy, but they were different races of beings that worked together. And Gene Roddenberry had gotten wind of this woman and decided to sit in on sessions with her. And that, I believe, he never said it that I have found, but I believe that is where his inspiration came from for Star Trek, sitting in on those sessions, because that's what he said. She wrote, I have the book, and she said that they were from different places and they were working together. And they had come here to try to help Earth. They had come here to stop us from, you know, setting our killing life on this planet. You know, they had come here in lieu of the nuclear bomb. But I believe that was his inspiration. So my point in all of that is it would be really wonderful if we came together and worked towards, you know, learning more. And oh, by the way, as far as ghosts, everything's not a ghost. Sometimes you're just having,
Right.
sometimes you're having an experience with, as you said, you know, with those that are there that we just can't see.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe they came from the moon.
It's possible. Yeah. Now, in closing, I'd like to get your thoughts on what's happening with modern day disclosure. There's a lot of talk in the mainstream media, a lot of, I think, disinformation, misinformation, but talk nonetheless, which is kind of opening people's eyes to it and at least getting people to look at the subject in a little bit more of a serious manner. Do you think that we will see a little bit more of disclosure from our government, or do you think that this is something else, maybe not in our best interest that they're doing, or do you think that we're going to be the ones that have to continue the disclosure ourselves?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think right now some of the governments, at least our government, may be feeling backed into a corner a little bit because there's so many people out there who are pushing for disclosure. I don't know why they don't want to tell. Maybe they feel like it's in our best interest because, you know, maybe they just don't feel that we are ready. We have a lot of you know, roots here in religion and beliefs that, you know, we are the most important. What's going to happen, you know, when we learn that we're not the most important, that there are others, you know, equal to us? I don't really know their reason, but I do believe we're getting close. Also, I believe that we have help from the extraterrestrials. I believe that for years, subtly, they've been educating us through the media, through people who are trying to get information out there. I believe that they are working with us. You know, we have help. So I believe it's coming slowly. I believe it's coming slowly.
Yeah, there's definitely something interesting happening. I'd have to agree with that. Constance, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. Before you head out, if people are interested in checking out some of your work and your books, what's the best way that they can do that?
So all of my books can be found on Amazon. The Encyclopedia of Moon Mysteries is there. It's you know, it's an A to Z volume of information. If you want to look up Apollo astronauts or, you know, UFOs on the moon or structures on the moon, you can just do that. It was supposed to be a quick reference. But also there's my website, ConstanceVictoriaBriggs.com. I'm also on Facebook. I have a Moon Mysteries page where I try to post interesting information on moon mysteries. And also I have a Constance Victoria page there. So feel free to, you know, contact me through my website if you have any questions or, you know, remarks or something. That's
Awesome. That sounds great. Well, Constance, thank you so much again for coming on tonight. And you cover so much. I'd love to have you back on. We can talk about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. I would
definitely.
love to.
All right. Well, until next time, everyone else, you have an excellent evening.